Hello, today we're going to talk about ovulation, or manifesting your creations and being open to new energy arriving to support them. Ovulation is a very short phase of the menstrual cycle. Ovulation itself only lasts from about 16 to 32 hours, so it's over a couple of days, and the egg, if not fertilised, only lives for another 24 hours after ovulation. We don't get ovulation in every cycle, like I said in the previous video, because we need to have the egg, one egg maturing enough that it can then be released. I also wonder some women are quite aware of ovulation. They feel a slight, it's often like a little stitch or a cramp, and other women don't feel it. It even has a name, Mittelschmerz. Sometimes some women feel it more in the ovary, and some women feel it a little bit in the lower back. We're only going to ovulate from one side. It doesn't necessarily alternate each month. So what's happening with ovulation? Well, it's following on from the follicular phase. A couple of days before ovulation, the estrogen and prolactin, which is a hormone that supports estrogen, which is a hormone that we produce for breastfeeding. So it's interesting, that connection with the nourishing and nurturing the egg to maturity, triggers a surge of luteinizing hormone, and it's that surge that prepares for the release of the egg from the follicle. The follicle is the fluid-filled sac within the ovary. Only one egg, very occasionally two, has matured to this phase. The other eggs, as we saw in the previous phase, have stopped growing and been transformed. So we have this one egg, and it's in its maturation process, it's reduced its numbers of chromosomes to 23. And in this process, it's produced another cell called a polar body, which used to be thought to be a kind of waste bin for junk DNA, but now people understand there's nothing junk in our body. We always produce things because they're for a reason, and this polar body seems to help the egg in its maturation process, because it's actually not the final phase of maturation for the egg, ovulation. The final phase is if it meets a sperm. It's actually preparing to meet a sperm. So it's ready with its 23 chromosomes. If it meets a sperm, another polar body is formed, and then both will eventually degenerate, and the sperm and the egg will be carrying on their journey to develop into a baby. But that's beyond ovulation. So let's go back to ovulation. The egg, it takes about, with this surge of luteinizing hormone, there's a release, there's a movement outside. It takes, as I said, about 16 to 30 hours to be released, so it doesn't happen in one go. And it's releasing into the space between the ovaries and the fallopian tube, so the top end of the fallopian tube. So the fallopian tube has little fingers at the end called the fimbriae, and the fimbriae reach to gather this egg to take her into the fallopian tube. The egg doesn't always make it to the fallopian tube. Sometimes she stays in that space between the end of the fallopian tube and the ovary. Hopefully she doesn't get fertilised there, because that's not a great place to carry on growing. But if she's not fertilised, she'll only go a short way down the fallopian tube, and then she can't grow anymore without the support of the sperm. So she will stop growing, and again she'll just disintegrate in the fallopian tube and be absorbed back into the body. So the purpose of this egg is to get fertilised. And so I'm going to talk a bit about other changes in the body that happen to support the fertilisation process, well, to support the welcoming in of the sperm. So we produce cervical mucus, which is a more clear and stretchy mucus, and it's thought that this helps to nourish the sperm. It's welcoming the sperm in at the, well, it's not the other end of the fallopian tube, in the vagina. The sperm is welcomed in, it's nourished. The change in the mucus produces a less acidic environment for the sperm, so it's supportive. But it also helps the sperm to move through the vagina, into the womb, and into the other end of the fallopian tube, where it's moving up to the egg and the egg is moving down to the sperm. So that's the energy of this phase, that where we have this, the woman's body has this inner releasing to let the egg out, to then welcome in the sperm. That's why I like to call this phase manifesting, and it's understanding that in order to grow, not just for an egg to grow, but in our life, we need at some points where there are times when we're self-sufficient, when we don't need anybody else, but there are times when we need to welcome in another energy to help our projects grow, like the egg. Other things that are happening for the woman in this cycle, she's likely to feel her most sexual, because this is part of inviting in the sperm, and all the hormonal changes make her support this process of feeling more sexual, feeling more open to another. Could be any sexual relationship, but it is established that heterosexual men are more attracted to women around the time of ovulation. They have a sense of this, so there's this desire. And we could see sexual energy as well in its broader sense of creativity, of being open to another, of welcoming in. So ovulation is a little bit got the release energy of menstruation, but it's different because it's opening up to welcome in. That's the difference. It's not opening up to just let go, it's opening up to welcome in. So for this phase, it's often it's likely to be also a more creative phase of the cycle. Often women feel leading up to ovulation they have a lot more energy. It is a bit like the energy of spring in terms of the seasons, this sort of spring and going into summer and wanting to connect and be quite fiery and an outer movement. There is that quality to this time. It's often the time of the cycle that women get new ideas for anything in their life, new ideas about how to live their life, to be creative. It's this whole opening up, coming out of the winter, the spring, and then coming into the summer, the shoots and the flowers and all sorts of things going on, an activity, a yang, creative, dynamic energy. And this may well carry on beyond ovulation. Eggs, spring, moving into fertilisation and summer. So this is really an expression energetically of all of our energies of creation, especially within the extraordinary vessels, which I've talked about a little bit, and I have separate videos on that because that's a whole other subject in itself. But this quality of our essence, our basic energy changing and transforming and being open, this outer movement. If our energies haven't built up, if I talked about how we need to nourish ourselves before this phase in order to have this energy, And if it's not built up, then we might not feel quite so creative. We might just feel a bit depleted, and of course that will potentially affect the release of the egg. We need a dynamic. There is that yang movement of energy, outer movement of energy, and if we haven't supported the yin and built up the energy, then this yang movement might get stuck, and sometimes the egg isn't fully released. You get the follicle doesn't completely clear, there's fluid left, and then you can get cysts building up. The release is blocked. So it's important to find ways of being able to create an inner release and an opening to express our creativity. It's like in the spring, if a shoot's trying to come through the earth and it's blocked back down, there can be a frustration, except if the energy is very depleted, if it's because the energy was low, then there's just a kind of perhaps a sadness or just a lack of being able to express creation. So I'm going to show you a few, I just want you to connect with everybody's way of expressing themselves creatively is very different. It could be through making things, or being in relationship with people, or being in the garden, or whatever. However you want to express your creativity, this is the phase of the month when that's likely to be the strongest. So our affirmations for this time are: I release my creation out into the world, accepting that its destiny is no longer in my hands. That's something that's quite important. I haven't really talked about that, have I yet? When our egg is released, that's what we've done our work. When we put our project out into the world and invite someone else, an egg, the sperm, another project, could be another person, we need also to be able to let go of control. We don't know what's going to happen. Our egg may not, in this cycle, carry on its journey to become a baby. It may be reintegrated back into our body, and then we go back into another menstrual cycle. Not all of the projects are going to be continued. We might invite someone into our life for a brief moment, and then we realise, no, we don't want to carry on with this relationship. Some relationships are fleeting, some are longer. So it's about really having that capacity to let go and accept the independent lives of our creations. The creative aspect, I'm welcoming in new energies to support my creation. So it is the time of the month when it's not possibility. We're more open to connections with other people in all sorts of ways, not only sexually. And our challenges are: can I let go of my attachment to a specific outcome? And also, do I want to invite people in? And in terms of, yes, we talked about how do I express my creative energies, but also if I'm finding it difficult to express my creative energies, is it because I'm tired and depleted? And so maybe I need to nourish myself first and focus on the nourishing more, and then the creative energies can flow. So we're going to now do some exercises to connect with this creative flow of energy of the egg and being open. What helps us be open and creative? So I want to share with you a few movements that I enjoy that help me connect with the energy of ovulation. If you have a ball, I find sitting on a ball is quite nice because you can feel like the ball is almost a bit like this energy of the egg, and it helps you connect with the roundness of the egg and connect with the egg. But also the ball is quite nice because you can sit on the ball, and it's quite a nice way of just moving your pelvic floor, helping release any tension in your buttock muscles, and you could just put your hands on your hips and just gently move around and feel this opening within your pelvis. This is very much in Chinese medicine the girdle vessel again, which we did a little bit for menstruation, but this is more in terms of welcoming in the energy of another and feeling connected with another. So you're getting nice toning for your pelvic floor, nice releasing in your glutes, but it's also just quite nice to then play. Being anchored to the earth, but just playing and moving and expressing your creativity. You might lean forwards a little bit or back, and you could even, if you want, just again to connect with this opening to receive. Just gently lie back on the ball and open up, and just feel this real opening all along the midline of your body. It's a very nice exercise for your back as well, releasing the back, maybe stretching your arms and feeling that opening up. And then you could just slowly uncurl back up. So something else sometimes people enjoy is kind of bouncing on the ball as well, and it's all about being a playful, creative, bouncing. Some days I find I actually quite like bouncing up and down, and other days it makes me feel a little bit sick, even not sick but maybe nauseous, so just feel. And I'm showing these exercises as supporting the energy of ovulation, but you can do it any time of your cycle or any time of your life if you just want to be a bit playful. So that's a few ideas for the ball. And standing, again focusing on the pelvis, on releasing in the pelvis, on, well, not so much releasing but opening to receive. That's the thing of here, opening to receive. So starting perhaps with your hands on your pelvis, but then eventually you might want to be really aware of the space around you. It doesn't have to be opening to receive the energy of another person. You could be opening to receive the environment, the trees, the plants, beautiful objects in your house. Be open to receive into your centre. Relaxing your neck and your shoulders and your jaw. So you're also opening your heart. We're not only opening from our pelvis, we're opening a gentle opening through our whole body. And inviting creative projects and ideas and people and whatever you want to invite into your life. So I hope you enjoyed immersing yourself for a moment in the energies of ovulation with its aspects of creativity and welcoming in the energies of another to support you in your growth. Thank you.